The successful campaign to collect funds and materials for the construction of the tabernacle, the subject of this Shabbat's primary Torah portion, Parshat Vayakhel, was especially notable for its conclusion. After being informed that the required quantities had been gathered, Moses immediately ordered the Israelites to stop donating to the project. In doing so, he taught us a critical lesson. Sometimes more is actually too much. More funds, more precious materials, more volunteer labor could have produced a more beautiful, more elaborate, more opulent tabernacle. But instead, Moses collected exactly enough. In the Midrash, our sages imagine God telling Moses, "Construct for me a tabernacle of these dimensions, and I will constrict my presence to fit within it." In other words, God's very presence in the tabernacle's very existence as a sacred space, is connected to Moses' self-restraint in not building it larger than it was supposed to be. Moses could have built more, but more would have been too much. In his classic, The Sabbath, Rabbi Avraham Joshua Heschel develops the idea that the tabernacle, God's sanctuary in space, is built on the paradigm of the Sabbath, God's sanctuary in time. We do not celebrate and sanctify the 6 days of the week which parallel the 6 days of creation, but rather the Sabbath, the seventh day, when God refrained from further activity. Just as with the tabernacle, God's presence is manifest in the self-restraint of stopping. God could have created more, but more would have been too much. This lesson feels especially resonant after the recent Beijing Winter Olympics. Russian figure skater Kamila Valieva, 15 years old and the pre-games favorite, performed under the scrutiny of the doping scandal, stumbling on the ice and finishing fourth. Her teammate Alexandra Trusova, 17 years old, broke down after her second-place finish, heard shouting, "I hate this sport." A third Russian skater, Anna Sherbakova, also only 17, won the gold medal, but seemed lost amidst the drama. She later reported feeling conflicted over her victory. Their coach, Itiri Tuperidze, is known for pushing athletes past what were long considered the physical limits of the sport. In particular, her routines feature incredibly difficult quadruple jumps, normally not attempted in female competition. These jumps earn her skaters extra points, but are physically taxing and dangerous, best performed by the youngest and lightest skaters. Tuperidze has produced a long line of athletes who peak at very young ages, 15 to 17, and then disappear quickly into obscurity, nursing physical injuries, emotional trauma, or both. Tuperidze's approach feels similar to that employed for many years by Martha and Bella Carioli, who led U.S. women's gymnastics to international dominance by pushing ever younger, ever lighter athletes into ever more difficult and dangerous routines. The Cariolis achieved similar results, racking up championship medals, but with a string of broken teenagers left in their wake. More is too much. By assigning premium value to skills and feats that could only be performed by young, underdeveloped bodies put under extreme stress, the sports themselves incentivize programs to put outsized physical and emotional pressure on their youngest and most vulnerable competitors. More is too much. By refusing to recognize limits, the Karolyis and Tuperidze endangered their athletes. The Karolyis by ignoring the warnings about sexual abuser Dr. Larry Nassar, and Tuperidze by risking her athletes' careers with performance-enhancing drugs. By stopping when it was enough, even when he could have built more, Moses created the space for God's presence. When we rest on the Sabbath, even though we could be more productive by working 7 days a week, we create holy time. In contrast, by encouraging these coaches to push beyond any limits, the Olympics robbed us of the joy and inspiration of watching elite athletes perform, instead leaving us with something more akin to watching televised child abuse. Our sages ask, who is mighty? And answer, one who conquers their inclination. True might is in self-restraint, knowing when enough is enough. Shabbat Shalom.